Welcome. Our today's topic is space exploration, and the reason we have decided to talk on space exploration is because of this.
There is also a lot of Russian-inspired cyber warfare after multiple Trojan attacks by Russian hackers to cripple its communication network. Help has arrived on the ground in the form of billionaire Elon Musk's Starlink broadband services. Elon Musk, one of the most powerful businessmen in the world, has just acknowledged the arrival of Starlink internet terminals in Ukraine.
So there's a war going on between Russia and Ukraine, as we all know it, and because of all the devastation that has happened in Ukraine, Ukrainians couldn't get the internet. So one of the Ukraine's minister appealed to Elon Musk on Twitter about getting the internet from the Elon Musk company SpaceX, and the internet is called Starlink, which is a satellite-based internet service. And a couple of days later, Starlink arrived in Ukraine, and now those people could use the internet. So this was a very nice example for all the people who say, why spend money on space exploration when we have so many problems down here? So I thought, let's take this discussion a little bit more further and talk about this space exploration thing and in a little bit more detail, so that people can understand why space exploration is important. So let's start with the biggest myth that people have about space exploration, that it's just a scientific thing that science do for fun, and people think that we send all these missions to Mars and Moon and space with no proper objective, and just we are just exploring for the sake of exploring, and or we are just doing it for a laboratory science. The problem with that is it's not true. Whenever we send any space mission to space or Mars or Moon, every space mission has some sort of a specific objective to achieve. Okay, and that specific objective somehow ends up with the actual device or technology that we use on Earth here. And yes, there are some explorer space missions who are there for the sake of exploration, but those are the missions who have enabled us to do some specific space missions which directly affects us. So for example, right now there are so many space agencies who are trying to do a space mission on asteroids, and what they are trying to do is they are trying to mine the asteroids for some precious metals which are either they are not on Earth or very in less amount, so that we can get those metals from the asteroids, and then those same metals will be used to make devices and appliances that you use here in your everyday life. So that myth that the space technology, space exploration is done by scientists for fun and we are spending billions of dollars for no use, it's just not true. So now we have get the first myth out of our way. Now let's move further and let's talk about the second one. The second one is that many people have this constraint over space exploration, is that they say, why spend so much money on space exploration when we have so many problems down here? Now, instead of me answering this question, I'll let one of the most famous astrophysicists, Neil deGrasse Tyson, answer it.
So my only point is that if you want today to say, why study this when we have these other problems? All I do is take you back to the cave and let's say, all right, we're in a cave and there's a mountain over there in a valley. And I tell the cave, I tell the tribe leaders, I want to explore that mountain in that valley. No, we can't afford to send you out there now. We have to solve the cave problems first before anyone leaves the cave. We laugh at that. That's an absurd claim to make. In caveman days, I don't know if anyone did it, but that's a crazy thought, because there are solutions to your problems that might exist and time has demonstrated likely exist by leaving the cave that you can then discover. So for me, exploration is not just space, all the frontiers of the unknown, biology, chemistry, AI, you know those frontiers. And then you can cross-pollinate them and transform civilization.
Yes, just think of this. If at that time when we used to live in the caves, we would never have ventured into the wild and never explored our rest of the planet, where would we be right now? In that cave. It is that human exploration thing that we have in our DNA which has led us from the cave to where are we right now. So exploration till now has end up in good results for us. Another next point is that many people say, oh, I want to fund the space exploration. I'm okay with my money getting into the space scientific research, but the problem is that I think that space exploration does not solve my real life problems or the problems that I face everyday life. Well, that is not true again. We owe a great deal of gratitude towards the space agencies because the technologies and devices developed by these space agencies are getting used in our daily life every day. Let me give you some examples so that you can understand. So these companies are involved in our life indirectly in thousands of ways, but there are some examples, some small examples that I'll give you which affects your life directly. So you can now sit in the comfort of your home and order anything from Amazon. It gets delivered like this the next day, right? You order something from Swiggy or Zomato. That order comes in like what, 10 minutes at your doorstep. If you want to go somewhere, you just order a Ola or Uber cabs, right? And those also arrive at your doorstep and get you wherever you want. Now, how these people navigate through locations? Using GPS, right? What is a GPS? GPS is a collection of satellites in the orbit which helps navigate these things. Who put those GPS satellites in the orbit? NASA did. Next one. You use those power tools, right, to drill and undrill the bolts, nut and bolts. Who developed those power drills? NASA did. Then we go through airports through checks, right, security checks, through X-ray machines. Who built those X-ray machines technologies? NASA did, because NASA wanted to learn about the space through X-rays. So they developed a machine that could be small enough to put it on a satellite. So they put it in a machine and that could scan the X-rays. And that's how X-ray machine was invented. So even that is also invented by NASA. And the last one, and which is the biggest one, is that nowadays our Earth faces the biggest crisis, and that is climate change. And what is the biggest weapon that we have to deal with climate change? Solar energy, right? Renewable energy. Who made solar panels more cheaper and affordable? NASA did. So these are just small examples of how these solar space exploration companies have helped us to solve our daily life problems. Now, many people say, okay, that's okay, but I am more comfortable in giving my money to some research whose output I already know, right? I want to give my money to specific research to solving a specific problem. But the problem with this thought is that scientific discoveries doesn't work that way. So let me give you an example so that you can understand. There was a scientist in an American university who was an astrophysicist, and he wanted to learn about gas clouds in the universe. Now, how you study a gas cloud? Because gas cloud doesn't emit visible light, but what they emit is radio waves. So he was studying those radio waves, and while he was studying those radio waves, he discovered a phenomenon. So if you put a nucleus of an atom under electromagnetic force, it resonates in some way, and that resonating effect is depend on the mass of the nucleus. So different nucleus of different atoms resonate in different way when applied with the same electromagnetic force, and he discovered this phenomenon while studying the gas clouds in the universe. And now this phenomenon is called as a nuclear magnetic resonance, and he published a paper on nuclear magnetic resonance. So at that time, an electronics engineer read that paper and thought, wait a minute, if I can discover two nucleus from each other using just electromagnetic force, then I can differentiate between two tissues of our body just by applying the electromagnetic force, because at the end our tissues are made up of cells which has nucleuses in them, right? And thus born nuclear magnetic resonance imager, which is called the MRI machine, which is arguably the most potent tool in the hands of a surgeon nowadays, right? That's how MRI was invented. Think of this. MRI is a medical machine built by an electronics engineer based on the theory of nuclear physics founded by an astrophysicist. And this is how science works. Now, let me give you another example of the same thing. So in 1920s, when there was a World War I going on, European physicists were working on a theory called quantum physics. Now at that time it was very new. Now many people at this time were also thinking, why spend money on something that we can't even see when there is a war going on, right? But that same quantum physics gave rise to the technology that is called transistors. Those transistors are then used in computers. Those computers are now giving up AI, which is artificial intelligence. And that artificial intelligence is helping us to learn more about quantum physics in detail. Science helps science. And that's how science works. Science doesn't work in one straight line where you will ask someone to just sit down and invent things. That is not how science works. You don't know which discovery in biology will help us build something using physics, or which discovery in physics will help us build something in mathematics. You don't know that. Science works with the cross-pollination of different branches and something beautiful comes out. And you know why? All those technologies that I just mentioned before and all those devices that we didn't came up without this space technology. Do you know why? Because these space technologies, companies like NASA or our ISRO or SpaceX, these companies have to deal with a very hostile environment. All these things that we take for granted on Earth are not there in space. So even if you have to do a small thing, you have to be at like pinnacle of your creativity and problem solving capabilities to do a small thing. And that's how these people came up with these technologies and devices to overcome those problems. So if those space agencies never existed, we wouldn't have this technology and devices at our disposal. So we owe a great amount of gratitude towards these space companies. Now let's talk about the economics part of it. So now many people think that somehow we are giving this money which is allotted to the welfarement of the poor to the space agencies. And the reason people think like this is because the amount of money that people think that goes to ISRO is way much bigger than what actual money that goes to the ISRO. So in fiscal year of 2022, the budget of ISRO is around 13,700 crores, and which is way less if you compare to the money that other countries' space agencies get. Because anyway, space is expensive, but still we give a very less money to our space agencies, and we spend so much money on so much useless things anyway. Like this thing where a UP government spent around 160 crore rupees of taxpayer money on ads in one single year, and even after spending 160 crores, they end up with this ad where the flyover in the ad is from West Bengal. The factory and the factory workers in the ad are not actual factory and factory workers. It's a stock image from a stock image website. I mean, dude, at least when you are spending 160 crores, at least hire a smart ad agency which will not put the first image that they find on the internet. They just Google flyover factory and factory workers and just copy paste the first image that they find on the internet. Next big thing is that we are building a parliament building which will worth around 900 crores in a pandemic year. Parliament parliament which is in session like what, 10 days a year. And the parliament is a useful thing. If you think this way, you can do a lot of things in parliament, like sleeping or watching porn or beating each other to death with mics and chairs. I'm just saying we spend a lot of money on useless things. Now the next point is about the ROI people, the return on investment people, right? Who always say, oh, return on investment we are getting when we are spending so much money. So for those ROI people, ISRO actually makes money. So in 3 years, 2016, 2017 and 2018, ISRO has earned around 5,600 crore rupees through its various services. So ISRO is a money making institute. Okay, so that is for that ROI people. So this brings me to my last point, and that is, apart from this financial and technological incentives, space exploration gives us something to look up to, right? Something to dream about. So in 1960s, when America put the first man on the moon, it inspired a whole generation of Americans to become scientists and engineers. And if you consider our country's youth also needs something that they can look up to. Our country has so many achievements in the past, but all those achievements were individualistic achievements done by individual people. But we as a country need some achievements that we can collectively take pride in. You cannot say why we don't win Nobel Prizes and why we are spending so much money on ISRO in one single sentence. As I said, we need achievements as a country on which we can take collectively pride in, and institutions like ISRO can provide that. Now I think I have given enough reasons why we should fund space exploration. So thanks for watching the video and goodbye.